Welcome to Secrets of the Night Channel. If you love engaging and emotional love stories, then come to our channel. Here, we will bring you stories full of surprises, touching and engaging. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any interesting stories. In today's video, we would like to present to you a story called The Good Daughter-in-Law, narrated by Jane. Please watch along. Tessa came home after a long day at work. She had just entered the yard when she saw her little son Bella running out to greet her with a bright smile. "Mommy, Grandpa's cooking is delicious. Come in and eat." Bella pulled her mother's hand. Her clear voice made Tessa laugh. In the kitchen, Mr. Gavin was busy preparing dinner. His thin but skillful hands quickly completed the simple but heartwarming dishes. "You're home, my child." He looked up at Tessa, his eyes filled with affection and a hint of weariness. Tessa smiled, put her bag on the table, and hurried into the kitchen. "Yes, Dad. Please help me. I'm going to take a shower and then go out to eat." After saying that, she went straight to the bathroom, leaving Mr. Gavin alone in the kitchen. Mr. Gavin glanced at Tessa. His daughter-in-law was also very beautiful. He had never thought about it like that before, but for some reason he thought about it too much today. Although his mind was still distorted, in some ways he was still generous to those who had suffered a lot. Mr. Gavin thought to himself that it was really Tessa. He said that his daughter-in-law was caught up in the family's misfortune. Then he shook his head and clicked his tongue. Mr. Gavin worked hard for decades to raise his children, educate them, and start a family. But just 2 years after getting married, when his grandson was born, his son abandoned him and went to join his ancestors. He was left with only one grandchild, an old father, a wife, and a young child. Tessa's father-in-law, Tessa's old father, had lived an unhappy life without a wife, raising his children alone. It had been 3 years since her husband passed away, and she had stayed home to take care of him, despite her parents' efforts in the city to dissuade her. But she still cared deeply about her father-in-law. She thought about how her father-in-law would live if his daughter-in-law and grandchildren left him, and how his old, orphaned body would spend the last years of his life after losing his child and his grandson. She disobeyed her parents. She continued to live alone in the poor countryside, taking care of her old father and young children. Mr. Gavin put the okra on the plate, placed the tray on the table, and called out loudly, "The meal is ready. We can come out to eat. Grandpa has prepared it." "Yes." Tessa pulled her son out of the room. "Grandpa's steamed fish is so delicious today." "Child, eat a lot." The 3 of them, a small family, ate and chatted about everything from Bella's class to Tessa's work at the company. No one knew about the change in Gavin's heart, nor did anyone know that every time he saw Tessa, his heart would flutter. And then a week later, she got some new stock. Tonight, she went live to show off the items she was selling. That evening, Tessa prepared for her live sales session. She picked out the newest dress from the shipment, a tight red dress that stood out in the light. She stood in front of the mirror, turning around to adjust the dress and prepare to pose. From the hallway, Mr. Gavin happened to pass by. Normally, whenever Tessa went live, Mr. Gavin would sit in the room, avoiding walking around so as not to disturb her. But today, feeling thirsty, he left the kitchen to get a glass of water. When he passed Tessa's room, the door was ajar, revealing part of the space inside where Tessa was standing. Tessa was wearing a dress and turned it side to test the light, completely unaware that she was being watched. Her hand gently stroked the fabric, explaining to the customer about the soft material. Mr. Gavin stood still, his eyes fixed on Tessa's sexy figure. Her radiant face under the light was like a vivid painting that mesmerized him. A strange feeling rose in his heart. Mr. Gavin never thought that at this age he would have such strong emotions. The scene before his eyes made him suddenly realize that his desire was rising. Scared of himself, he quickly turned around and walked back to his room and closed the door tightly. In the small room, he sat on the bed, absent-minded. Tessa's image kept dancing in his mind, making him restless. He felt guilty and humiliated. "I'm old. How could I think like that? He blamed himself. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay awake worrying that he wouldn't be able to control himself if he had to live with Tessa every day. He thought about the meals they shared, the nights he heard her snore softly through the thin walls. What if one day I can't control myself? What if the neighbors find out? He trembled at the terrible scenarios he conjured up for himself. The next morning, while he was burning incense on the altar, Tessa came out of the room. She said excitedly, "Dad, my school is organizing a 3-day, 2-night camping trip. I'm planning to take my child on a trip. Can you sign me up?" Mr. Gavin turned back, his eyes a little confused. But he quickly regained his composure. "Is anyone in the class? Is the school safe?" Tessa smiled. "Yes. The teachers and the president of the Parents Association are with us. So you don't need to worry." "Dad." Mr. Gavin nodded, trying to hide his confusion. "Okay. Let him go. Children need to have fun with friends and learn more outside." "Okay. Thanks, Dad. I'll go sign up then." Tessa happily returned to the room, while Gavin continued to stand in front of the altar. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to push through the emotions that were tormenting him. But he couldn't help but worry about what might happen in the future. 3 days later, the child went camping. That evening, Gavin and Tessa were home alone. After the evening, father and son returned to their own rooms. Because it was Sunday, Tessa opened a live stream to sell products, read messages, and close orders for customers. After hearing Mr. Gavin's call, Tessa replied, "Okay, Dad. Wait for me for 5 minutes. I'll be there as soon as I'm done." He missed Tessa because she wasn't home today. Tessa turned off her phone, gathered some bags on the floor, and ran to Gavin's door, knocking on it. "I'm coming in, Dad." "Yes, come in." "Son, why does my back hurt so much today?" "From now on, Dad, you should pick up firewood less often. I think your back will hurt if you keep bending up and down." "Leave it to me," Tessa said as she rubbed oil on Gavin's back. Tessa used to do the same thing when her grandchildren were around. He felt at ease. But today, since there were only 2 of them, he felt a little embarrassed. After all, Mr. Gavin was not her biological father, but her father-in-law. No matter what, she still felt embarrassed. He used to smile brightly when his grandchildren helped him rub oil. But now he felt different. Ever since he washed his daughter-in-law's clothes, he had a completely different idea. As Tessa finished massaging the oil, Mr. Gavin reached out and took Tessa's hand. Tessa didn't know what was going on, but he didn't pull his hand away. She also didn't understand what Mr. Gavin wanted by holding her hand. Mr. Gavin put his arms around Tessa with a puzzled expression. "What's going on? Dad? Dad." Tessa was confused. "Dad, you want me to be yours? What do you mean?" "Dad? Dad doesn't know what's wrong with me. Lately my feelings are hard to describe. Every time I see you, I can't stand it. I've been holding back for decades, but today I can't stand it anymore. But you're my daughter-in-law. You and I can't do this. Dad knows it's a sin. We can't do that. But Dad doesn't know what to do, and Dad understands what you've been through. Dad thinks you need to share. But you're so scared. What if people find out? At home there's only Dad and you. You don't say anything and Dad doesn't say anything. How will others know?" Mr. Gavin was a little surprised by Tessa's reaction. He thought she should be scared or opposed in this situation. She was just worried about outsiders finding out. He understood that Tessa had given him the green light. He saw that Tessa had a hard time getting out of this trap, and before he could think, Mr. Gavin acted and approached her with his unique experience. He began to lead Tessa into a labyrinth of love. "Are you okay?" "Dad. Dad. I'm so scared." "It's okay. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. I think you'll be happy." The air between them was heavy, as if each breath was carrying with it an emotion that could not be stopped.